Lamb looked at the unshod Indian pony under Anderson. It cut no figure at all beside the buckskin. It rode hard and its gait was uneven, but the Mustang mark was there, and there were guts in the pony for many miles yet. Lamb watched it for a moment, with no expression on his bearded, dusty features. Slowly, the great pale brown hills came closer. No trees, no rocks broke the rounding contours. The ridges were sharp on the spines, delicately molded. The shadings of the coloration flowed so subtly into each other that Anderson could not tell whether the hills were a quarter of a mile away or 2 miles. The whole mass of them seemed to pulse in the still heat. Anderson's sudden loss of distance judgment gave him a queer feeling. When he looked behind once more and saw only lonely vastness, the claws of fear began to loosen and the hills began to capture his attention. A gentle incline led the two men among the pinyon trees. The pitchy scent of them was warmly strong. Lamb swung his sore-footed horse into a broad gulch, and soon they were riding on a brown carpet that flowed out from the skirts of the hills. Pure sand. The pack mule balked the moment its hooves touched the silky softness. It sniffed and held back on the tow rope, but at last Lamb urged it on ahead. Riding in an eerie silence, broken only by the gentle plopping of hooves, the two men struck a course to turn the shoulder of the dunes where they ended against the mountains. "That's the biggest pile of sand I ever saw." In the strike of the afternoon sun, the sweeping curves of the hills blended into a oneness that robbed Anderson of depth perception. There were moments when the dunes had only height and length. He estimated the highest ridge at 700 feet, but it seemed so far away, he guessed that a man could not reach it in a day. Staring at the dunes, he forgot for a time the threat behind him, until Lamb stopped the buckskin suddenly. The dust was out there now, standing like thin smoke above the rabbit brush on the way that they had come. As they watched, the first wind of the day came out of the southwest. The claws hooked in again and the tightness returned to Anderson's stomach. He rode to the rear of the pack mule, thinking to urge it into greater speed when they started. Lamb's calmness stopped him. With one eye almost closed so that the side of his mouth was raised in the semblance of a smile, Lamb was slouching in the saddle and studying the dust, as if not sure of the cause of it. He scrubbed the scum from his teeth with his tongue. "There were 5 of them before," he said. "Guess there's still that many. You know something, Andy? They swung away this morning to get fresh horses at Pasquale's ranch." Lamb eyed Anderson's wiry scrub. He glanced to the right, past cottonwoods and pinyon trees, up to where Mosca Pass Trail came down in a V of the mountains. "Madonna was still best for us. Once we hit the Huerfano, I've got more friends among the Mexicans than a cur has fleas. Let's go." Lamb swung down. "My horse won't last 2 miles. "He's got to. We'll get the rocks and stand him off." "Then we might do that with Indians." "Yep." Lamb lifted the buckskin's left forefoot and looked at the hoof. "These are white men, Andy." He let the hoof drop. "They know what we got." He walked to a cottonwood at the edge of the gulch. "White men or not, by God, I ain't aiming to die over no gold, Johnny. I've come along too many years without it. I ain't figuring to let them have it either." He grinned, and his toughness was never more apparent. "Well, just wait a spell. The wind's coming. Out in the valley it would have helped, but here, when we hit the trees—" "Wait." The wind reached them after a while. Strong and warm, it came out of the southwest. There was an odd rustling sound, and the sand lay out in streamers from the ridges of the dunes. It was difficult to tell about the dust cloud, but Anderson knew it must be closer. All at once Anderson realized that the tracks he and Lamb had made in the broad gulch were gone. Unbroken sand that lay in gentle waves like frozen brown water covered every mark they had made since entering the